I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's webcast. Well, it's 2010. And you would think that we have a bright and wonderful future ahead of us, but there are some people who think that 2010 will witness the most destructive war in modern history. How about that? And it will be in the Middle East. Israel will be the main combatant against its Arab neighbors. This comes from the AmericanChronicle.com and was written by Hamid Gharafi, and he is an Arabic, written in Arabic. He's an analyst, Middle Eastern journalist and analyst, and he wrote for the Lebanon Canadian Coordinating Council, the LCCC. And Elias Benjani of the LCCC, I guess an Arabic group, translated it, and here's what he says. 2010 will witness the most destructive wars in modern history. 2010 will determine the fate of Iran and Lebanon for many years. And 2010 will observe a bitter end of Hezbollah and the destruction of Syria's missile and chemical programs. He goes on to say that the first two enemies that the West got rid of was the Taliban in Afghanistan and the Ba'athist Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq. This, of course, following the 9/11 attacks. And as a result, Lebanon's political and military map was changed in the aftermath of the 2006 Israeli-Hezbollah war. By the end of this devastating war, an Israeli security belt was established inside the entire southern Lebanon territory as far as 20 miles to the south of the Litani area. So Israel has a nice 20-mile no man's land in southern Lebanon to protect it from any Hezbollah forces. And, of course, it was only about a 4-kilometer belt until the 2006 war against Lebanon. And now 34 countries have soldiers under the UN flag in this southern area of South Lebanon to keep Israel and the Hezbollah apart. But sometime this year, Israel is going to have it up to here. I mean, Israel will launch a devastating war. And according to this article in 2010, weapons of mass destruction that were developed after the unprecedented Iraq War will probably determine the fate of at least 2 Middle Eastern countries, and that of the state of Iran with its nuclear program, Lebanon and Hezbollah, and also Gaza, the Palestinian Strip. According to this article, Israel is going to win. And this war will be so massive, so devastating to Syria and Lebanon and Iran and so on, that Israel will have no more threats of war, none whatsoever. Hey, you know, that reminds me, the Bible says that they will be at peace. Yeah, that Israel will think everything is moving toward utopia. But then comes the great battle of Gog and Magog. For evidently, Iran will not be completely destroyed in this upcoming war. And remember now, this article says it will happen in 2010. They surmise probably this summer everything will fall apart, and Israel will be the winner, hands down. These experts say that such an Iranian act the needed justification will give Israel's Netanyahu government the needed justification to go ahead and wage an unprecedented destructive war against both the Hezbollah and Lebanon and totally cripple the capabilities for many years to come. And it says experts estimate that the number of Lebanese that would be displaced from their home to be over 1 million, and most of them will flee to Syria. And then it says British defense officials have affirmed that this grim, intimidating, and scary picture predicted by the Israeli experts for the coming year seems to be very close to the actual devastating reality that will hit Lebanon in the next war. The Israelis, as they are advocating worldwide, are solidly determined to close the Hezbollah case once and for all, due to the fact that they wish to eliminate the possibility of any future wars and finally achieve security on their northern border. Well, hey, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? The only problem is it ain't going to happen. Israel may fight another war this year, but it will lead to the most devastating war, and that would be the battle of Gog and Magog. And yet, Israel is going to win because Israel has a secret weapon. According to Ezekiel chapter 38, God is on Israel's side. And when Israel's enemies begin to fight, it's like, smacking God in the eye. God says, my fury will come up in my face, and I'll rain fire on Lebanon. Basically, that's what Ezekiel chapter 38 says. Well, I guess that would be the fulfillment of prophecy, wouldn't it? An apocalyptic overtone to the year 2010, something we can keep our eyes on in the Middle East. So you'll not want to miss this program daily on our website and also our weekly broadcast. In fact, I want to tell you that you can pick up last year's broadcast, 48 television programs, half-hour broadcasts, on 12 DVDs. Here they are, and they are available for a gift of $100 to the Ministry of Prophecy in the News. We'd like for you to help us. It'll help us pay for our time in the coming year. If you'd like to have the 2009 broadcasts, they are available, and we'd be glad to get them out to you. And by the way, if you want the CDs, which is the audio only, which is a nice cleaned up series from our broadcasts. Cleaned up, I mean there are no uhs, no stuttering, it's a clean, smooth presentation. They are available, 48 programs on 12 discs for $50 plus shipping and handling. So call the phone number at the bottom of your screen and order it today, will you? I want to remind you once again of our 2010 issue, January issue of Prophecy in the News magazine, and this month we are launching a new series called Eschatology 101. Over the next 3.5 years, I'm going to be putting everything I know about prophecy, everything I have learned and researched. The basics will be here, and it's like a college course. Because I taught this course to a college group at Meridian University, and now I want to make these 42 lectures available to you. So get the January 2010 issue and subscribe, will you? When you call to subscribe, ask about the bonuses. We'll be glad to tell you about them. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our webcast.